Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Full Course Yellow. It's that time of the year again. It's Le Mans weekend. We're all looking forward to Le Mans, or I hope you're all looking forward to Le Mans. But that's certainly not the only thing that's happening in the world of motorsport. We'll get onto that in a moment. Some big news on the Moto GP front, and also on the Australian drag racing front as well. A couple of stories that broke late this afternoon, early this evening in both those areas. But of course, the big event on the weekend. Well, there's a couple of big events on the weekend. The Baku Grand Prix is back as well, and they will rather controversially be starting qualifying for the Baku Grand Prix exactly as the tricolor waves to send the field off on the Le Mans 24 hours. So they've actually moved qualifying so that it does actually clash with Le Mans, which probably shows you where the brain is of people in Formula One at the moment. They've already said, the FIA have already said they don't want a clash next year because it's the 100th anniversary of Le Mans, and they want to make that a very special weekend, and they want to provide the opportunities for Formula One drivers, if they so wish, to take part in that race. And Formula One Liberty Media have already said, non monsieur, that is not happening. There will be a race, there will be a Grand Prix up against the 100th anniversary of Le Mans next year, and no Formula One drivers will not be taking part. So there you go. But anyway, so we've got a lot to talk about, and we've got some people to talk about it as well. We've got Richard Outram is joining us once again. We've got from his sick bed where he's had the dreaded lurgy. We've got Craig Doc Latigo. Stuart Fairweather is joining us once again after a bit of a break, and our resident Formula One tragic and in pit lane floor manager Peter Johnson is with us as well. Dave Stillwell is apparently watching dinosaurs running around. So there you go. So
style, I think.
Yeah. So there you go. So but anyway, we might start with you, Doc, because as I said, just with breaking news and all that, officially announced this afternoon. Got the press release from both KTM and Ducati that it's now official. Jack Miller going back to KTM.
Absolutely, Brett. The rumour mill has finally turned its last jug of water over, and it's been rife. I said last week on this program on Full Course Yellow that I was hoping he wouldn't go back to KTM, but I've got a little bit of an inkling that might have had something to do with money, and probably a little bit to do with, hey, come back with us. We looked after you when we were in Moto 3 together back in arguably his best season ever back in 2014 with KTM in Moto 3. So yeah, it's good news in general. He still gets to stay in MotoGP. He's probably not going to be on the best bike out there, but he'll be on a competitive one. KTMs have shown some really big glimpses of even top step podium style ones in the last 2 years with Brad Binder and the likes who have been stepping into the role. So Brad will be his partner next year on the KTM, on the factory KTM, and it'll be for 2 years, as Brett said. So he's contracted. The news is broken this afternoon or today our time, and it gives him a certain future as well, though, too. And look, the press release today said that they're rapt to have obviously Jack back in the fold, and that they've worked together, and he's a sort of a guy that throws everything down the road and gives his 110%. And
sometimes literally.
Yeah, and he and Brad are very similar in riding styles to each other, and that's coming from the team itself, but work with them both. So yeah, literally he wears his heart on his sleeve, and he gives all his all. Where some of them, I don't know what they're saying by that, if it's just a bit of spin, or they just, that's just the style of the guy they are, or the riding that they do. Whether there's anyone else in the paddock that don't sort of necessarily give their best. We have had one sort of instance this year where a name by Vinales tried to blow up an engine and cracked it with the team a little bit. But anyway, good news for Jack, and gives him certainty, and he can come back to Australia and maybe have a bit of summer this year in Queensland or WA with family, and have a ride around the bikes, which he hasn't been able to do when he's been at Ducati, because he's been given his all. So yeah, I think it was pretty tight there at Ducati as well, though, too. They've got 2 or 3 guys that can be possibly in the top team, like like he's been at, and also up and coming guys that it could easily fill the satellite spots in Pramac.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's got a 2-year deal. I mean, as you say, it's a good chance for him now to sort of settle down. He knows that he's in Moto GP for a couple of years, and he can some of that pressure will be taken off. And certainly seems to have left on good terms at Ducati. I mean, in their press release, the company put out and said, "Look, we've really enjoyed our time with we've had a great time with Jack. He leaves with our best wishes, and yeah, good luck. Who knows what might happen in the future?" But
he's been in the paddock for a long time in the MotoGP circuit. I mean, he's been on that circuit for 10 years now. He's 27 years of age, so that'll almost see him through until about 30 years of age, and that's a pretty good stint in Moto, in the MotoGP paddock, even if it is across two categories, to have lasted that long as well, though. Too, some guys only last a couple of years or a few years. So he's seen it right through. He might go. It'd be a great stepping stone maybe across the World Superbikes in a couple of years' time, unless him and KTM are really happy with the results they've got at the time. So it still gives him the opportunity to stay there.
Yeah, that's it. So that's good that he's going to be around, and we're not going to lose him to MotoGP. Let's people are lining up now. Some of the regulars. Let's have the roll call and see who's with us again tonight. Box is with us again. Bonjour, Box. Bienvenue, Van Carter de Mon. So we're very happy to have you. Comment ça va? I hope that everybody's. Well, yes, great weekend coming up. So we'll be talking about that in a moment. Dave Howard is joining us once again. Yeah, Doc's breaking up badly.
I was about to say we've got the hyperpole on tonight. Haven't we got the hyperpole on tonight, Brett?
Hyperpole happening around 2:30 a.m. Unfortunately, so it's a big night. But now this is just a tip for young players. If you haven't done it already, if you haven't subscribed in the past to Stan, they do have a 7-day free trial. That's what I'm watching it on. So they had qualifying, and so I hooked up yesterday to the 7-day free trial for Stan Sport, and I'll watch. And as a bonus, I'll also get IndyCars from Road America on Monday morning as well. So yeah, if you haven't signed up yet, well, actually I had signed up. If you sign up with another credit card and a different email address, you'll get another 7 days. So that's what I've done. So.
So yeah, get some aliases going for the rest of the year.
Yeah, get some. Fire up a Gmail account somewhere, and then no problems.
Get a credit card made in your kid's name and use that as well too, and then cancel it and cut it up in half.
Something like that, yes. There you are. Andrew's joining us as well. Got his 2 screens ready for this weekend. Yes, I think that's the deal. Will be sort of have multiple screens on the go. The television will be on Stan, and the tablet will be on timing from the FIA. If you want to watch live timing from Le Mans, it's on the FIA WEC homepage. You can get live timing all weekend, and then of course for commentary and for commentary of everything that happens at Le Mans. Not just what they're showing on the television. Of course, our friends at Radio Le Mans, Radio Show Limited, John Hindhoff, Johnny Palmer, Nick Damon, Shay Adam, all the crew at Radio Le Mans give you the best coverage. Was listening all night last night, and they had a whole bunch of fabulous stuff coming from that. It was I won't say it's almost as good as being there, but it was pretty damn good nonetheless. So.
And tune in any time to it, because they have a couple of catch-up channels that they'll replay for you as well, though, too. So I was doing that the same as yesterday to fill in some time while I'm having my 7-day holiday at home, and I was listening to some of their previous programs over the last couple of weeks, and they're very entertaining in themselves.
Yeah, they do a fabulous job, and basically that. What those guys have forgotten more about Le Mans and World Sports Car Racing that most of us have ever learned. So that's great to listen to. They do a terrific job, very entertaining. And if you want anything behind the scenes, they'll certainly be there to tell you about it. And they'll also be covering all all support categories as well, which you won't. And a lot of the support categories are on YouTube. Well, at least the Road to Le Mans, the race, and qualifying for the Road to Le Mans, the Le Mans Cup, which is the major support race, are both live on YouTube. And I think they're coming up. I think the first of those is later tonight or early, sometime tomorrow morning, either just before or just after Hyperpole, so that you can catch up with all that stuff on YouTube as well. We'll probably put a link onto the In Pit Lane page. Let's have a look at what we got there. We had there. I think I said hello to Andrew. Also to Jeff McWigan. G'day, Jeff. How are you? Our regular Mad Cow Mark is joining us again. We got some drag racing news coming up. Boy, we got some drag racing news coming up, which I'm sure Mark knows about already. If he doesn't, but it was a bit of a surprise. Bit of a surprise to me. Adam Geary, who's saying he's not here to watch us. He's just here to say hello to Mark. Basically, it's like it's a whole sort of it's a whole separate show going on. It's how they catch up every week. Giuseppe is with us. G'day, Giuseppe. Nice to see you again. Mark is saying g'day to Adam again.
Get it again.
Paul Van der Acker, who will be no doubt he'll be very happy that I don't know, he might not be happy that the July Super Series round at Phillip Island has been cancelled. Lack of entries, but standing out and about at one of the corners at Phillip Island, as we've all done very, very many times in the middle of July, is not fun.
They're warm days, aren't they? They really are. They've got a lot of heat. They've got a lot of heat in those days, and I think the whole five of us, maybe not Peter, but at least five of us, if you include Knackers on the screen with us right now, have spent at an hourly rate. What's best is probably only be described as freezing the nuts off the tractors down there that Foxy has there in the pit crew area at the back there. We usually put our cars in, so it's
filming down at Siberia for that July State round or similar was always lots of fun.
Brett and I have been there during summer this year, and the view is absolutely magic looking over the ocean there when you turn around and not looking at the cars going past. But we'll just have to wait for the a heads up, Brett, just in case I forget to tell you off air. Don't forget to get Knackers. We're already across this. The 6 hour relay will be on down there in July anyway. So if you're an official, get yourself signed up for that. And we see how we go getting down there, Brett.
Yeah, Richard, are you going to be a part of that, the 6 hour?
I don't believe so. I used to go down with the Ford Coupe Club, and they just haven't been motivated to do it again. The last time we did it, we finished 8th, which I thought was a pretty fair effort, really.
Well, Richard, if you wanted to take a competitive car, you could always run a clubman. If you wanted to run a competitive car, like a fast car, you could run a clubman.
Yeah,
you don't need to run a competitive car. You just have to be consistent. That's the whole object.
Is it in one piece yet, or is it still in the boxes?
No, it's not in one piece. And it won't. I didn't know anyone remembered I still had one.
But, God.
Maybe I could buy it off you and put a Chrysler V6 in it just to annoy people.
It was
chipping in there. Stuart, can you give us a description of it when you actually was in one piece?
I don't think I've ever seen it in one piece.
Right, well, it's stuck in the corner of the garage, covered with stuff.
The garage.
But as soon as I get an actual proper garage where I can work on it, well, maybe you never know what will happen.
Well, I think it's there because
I can afford to do it now too.
It was a regular running gag sort of as we went into every Christmas break. Melissa always used to say, "Why don't we give Richie a call and just say hey, do you want to? Let's go all get together over the Christmas and finish that damn Westfield."
Working
that's a great idea. You're all welcome.
Let's have a working
bedrooms.
Well, that might be the summer project after we finish the next season of In Pit Lane. Let's continue. We've got
speaking of a little
hang on
mechanicals, Brett. We did have some side projects we were looking at, and I did have some time on my hands to be able to do it. Maybe not. We're going to do something mechanical on in-pit lane over the break. It may not necessarily be as big as what you were thinking, but I was thinking it's something that's actually the next best part of a drive chain, because I'll be getting a tour of a workshop in the next few weeks, and let's just say they still make what was described as the Aussie 4. So we'll talk about that off air.
Okay, well, that's something to look forward to. G'day to Russell Clark once again. David Haddon saying TCR is also on stand. Yeah, the Speed Series is on stand as well. TCR and S5000. They need to broadcast the whole weekend. Yeah, that's one of the annoying things. I mean, with the cameras are there and they only cover, like, the TCR and the S5000 and perhaps TCM if they're running. I understand why they do. Well, I understand it at a state level. I mean, it's the same sort of scenario that we were in for a long time, when you'd go down and you'd have categories saying, "Oh, how come we're never on in-pit lane?" It's always just like, well, you go out and you pay other people to cover it. You want us to put you want us to put your category on our show for nothing, and you go out and you pay someone else to cover it. No, if you're going to be throwing some money around, you can throw some of it at us. So I can understand why but when you're looking at some
pay for play.
Yeah, pay for play. That's the way it works on, and that's why they moved to Stan in the first place, because the deal that they had with Channel 7, although it gave them free-to-air airtime, it was costing them too much, and Stan came to them with a much better deal. So that was where that came from. But yeah, I don't know whether I'd be paying the $20 a month for Stan just for the occasional World Endurance, but there's also got the World Rallycross Championship, World Rally Championship, Formula E, I think, Motocross, World Motocross Championship. So if you're into your bikes there,
Brett,
so they've got a few things on.
You just mentioned the motocross there, and Doc was talking about the bikes before. Segue time. Did anyone watch anything from Isle of Man TT? And was it any good? Because I haven't watched it, and I'm not sure which channel it's on.
I saw statements, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's been another tragic thing. As far as I know, there's been no local coverage. This year they had a streaming service, and one of the reasons they had a streaming service is a lot of the free-to-air coverage that they've had in the past was dropped, and one of the reasons that it was dropped was because increasingly a lot of the sponsors and the media are not as keen being associated with the event as they used to be, just simply because of the fact that there's been so many people there. And I think, what is it, three that we've lost for this particular meeting this week? Is it?
One of them is a Todd car, and they messed it up, the protocols on the announcements, where we lost someone, and they announced the wrong name, and the other one was critical. So they've had to do an investigation of how they actually. And this sounds crazy, but they're investigating and doing a what do you call it? A roundup, or whatever you call it, a review on how they actually go about the medical stuff and telling people what happens into the public. So
Paul is saying there are highlights. Apparently, Isle of Man highlights are on Foxtel so they would be on KO as well. So I hadn't seen any, but yeah.
Jump on what we're on there on YouTube. You also get to see some good snippets of stuff every now and again, and I've caught that Stuart's talking about there.
But while we're at it, Paul's also pointing out that this week in the Australian Motor Racing Series, the AASA Series is on up at Winton. Formula 3 running for you. Yes, Formula 3 is still about, and still quite big in New South Wales. For some reason, all the Formula 3 cars seem to end up in New South Wales, mostly with one particular family. And they sort of keep me alive. So the Formula 3 series, and they're great cars. I mean, it's a shame that it never really took off. They were really nice cars. The racing was always good when they could get a good field together. So they'll be in action on the weekend.
Add to Nackers' a great big long excerpt down the bottom there. So I give him a lot of credit for typing all that out. Probably didn't have the room to write one more thing, which is Winton Motor Raceway have made it.
I think what Doc was about to say is they've made it. Yes, I think what Doc was about to say before he got cut off was, yes, it's free admission for spectators, which is as it should be. Miniature races excels TA2. I'll have some news on TA2 in a moment as well. Thunder Sports stock cars, the RX8s. We had young Jack Panacea from the local Victorian who's in the RX8, and we covered the RX8s at Phillip Island. So they're in action this weekend as well, and the Vic V8s, which are a popular category. They often run with the local sports sedan guys in the State Series, and they've got their own.
Are a good friend of the In-Pit Lane family.
Right there, yeah. So we've got So if you're up around that sort of area and you're not watching Le Mans, I suppose that there. And I think somebody said that there was live streaming happening there as well. Although be very, very careful what you click on. There has become a massive problem now for all of us in the live streaming game that as soon as any event comes up and someone runs a live stream, it gets hijacked by Indian scammers who say yes, you can watch, and it doesn't matter how big or small the meeting is. I mean, as soon as you put something online saying, hey, we're live streaming from, suddenly you'll have 101 people called Abdul or something jumping on and saying, please come, yes, number one stream from Sandown Club meeting. You come and watch us and just give us your credit card details and you can watch for nothing.
Why do you need to give them your credit card details?
Well, as I say, there's one born every minute. There's obviously enough of them. There's obviously enough of them out there to actually, to be doing that, to make it worth their while. To do it, yes. This is as Paul was saying.
$multi-billion industry.
The historic Winton was bombarded by dodgy live stream links. Although, as I said at the time, it does show that the fact that there were so many people asking for live streams, that it was so there would be really good if you could live stream that event, and you certainly could have live streamed that event, and we would have been once again happy to have done it if providing someone pays us for it, because it costs us a lot of money. But anyway, so let's talk about get back to some news. Okay, we caught up with a few of the people. We'll get back to some more in just a moment. The Le Mans this weekend, yes, a hyperpole or hyperpole coming up this about 2 o'clock. I think it's around 2 a.m. this tomorrow morning. The top 6 in each category. I mean, let's face it, in the top category there's only 5 cars entered, so they're all getting a run. No, 5. You got the two Toyotas, 2 Glickenhaus, and the Alpine.
Oh, I thought there was 2 Alpines. Sorry.
No, there's only the one Alpine. So they're running. So they all got in. There were only 6 cars for LMP. Oh, it's not LMP, for GT Pro. Very, very tight, and unfortunately, the one team that did miss out was the Ferrari driven by Shane van Gisbergen. So Shane just missed out on getting into Hyperpole. Got caught up. If you watched qualifying last night, they had some rain come through, and a few people got caught off guard because of the rain. And Shane's team was one of them. They couldn't get in.
One person that caught himself a bit off guard and lived up to his name was Mr. Fassbender as well, too, and his Porsche. So Matt Campbell, our Aussie kid that we follow a lot, and I catch up from time to time when I'm at the track, had a little bit of mending to do on the Porsche in the last 24 hours. So Mr. Fassbender lost control of it and decided to smack around on both ends of it on the corner.
Yeah, so it's a big thing, but I mean, I hats off to him. But I mean, because the guy, I think he did it the right way. He's come through. He went through the road to Le Mans. He's gone through and over the past few years built up slowly, because the passion was always there. I want to race at Le Mans. I want to do a Steve McQueen. I want to do a Paul Newman. I want to do who was the last actor was Patrick Dempsey. I want to do a Patrick Dempsey and actually race at Le Mans, and so he's doing that. And our own Matt Campbell from Queensland is his co-driver.
Lewis Hamilton's doing it the other way around. Anyway,
I would advise anybody from acting who wants to go to Le Mans, do not do Steve McQueen's trick with a camera. do not lie down on the
Jumping
middle of the
fences with
track to film the
motorbikes.
race cars as they're airborne coming towards you. It's not a good idea. It looks fabulous, but
Looks
not a
great.
good idea.
Looked great. You can't deny that. It certainly looked great. There's no
I
there,
thought you were
but
just going to say jumping fences on motorbikes, but anyway, that's another whole.
well, he did
Well,
that
there's
as
that too. Yeah.
did that as well too. But that was so. It's amazing what effect that movie had. They were talking about that once again on Radio Le Mans last night, and the number of people, including John Hindhaugh, saying that their passion for sports car racing and a lot of their passion for motorsport came from being kids and watching Le Mans and seeing that film, and that's where my passion for Le Mans came from. Was going and seeing that film and thinking, one day I'll get there, one day I'll go, and yeah, we're all in the same boat, so it had a huge effect on so many people, and once again with Michael Fassbender. And if you're wondering, if you haven't you live under a rock or something, Michael Fassbender, the Hollywood actor type person who was
good actor too, yeah.
Yeah, sort of is very keen to yeah, Magneto. Yeah, we played the young Magneto and in X-Men, and yeah, just a passionate lover of sports car racing and Le Mans, and said about 3 or 4 years ago, I want to race at Le Mans. I want to race in the 24-hour of Le Mans. It's been a lifelong ambition. It's a bucket list thing, and he said about doing it the right way. He made the time, made time available for himself, and did all of the lead-up races and all the lead-up series, and now he's running in the World Endurance Championship and running this week for the first time in the main race itself. So,
speaking
yeah,
of celebrities
hope
as
it
well
goes
too.
well.
Valentino Rossi did quite well at Paul Ricard in his last outing as well too.
Yeah, I think he was like fifth or something. It was there.
Yeah, he drifted a little bit as the laps went on a little bit. He out to 8th or maybe even 11th there at one stage. But look, and well done. The commentators didn't mention him every bloody 2 minutes too, which was fantastic. But yeah, you could just see his name across there on the timing screen from time to time, and he held his own.
Yeah, look, I think that's no surprise. I mean, we know that he's done a number of rallies over, and every time he's jumped behind the wheel of a car, he's done pretty well. And mostly, I mean, if you have a look at the history of top bike riders who go into car racing, most of them do pretty well. I mean,
with the exception of Wayne Gardner, of course, but that's
well, even Wayne was. I mean, he wasn't a massive success,
I'm
but
stirring.
He did all right.
Yeah, he did.
I'm stirring. I'm just getting I'll get the wooden spoon out. Hang on.
No,
Problem is, he had a terrible sponsor.
Hold
I've
it all Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay. All right.
I've heard some terrible stories about being sponsored by Coca-Cola.
But I thought things went better with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but it's probably only the drink, not the sponsorship.
Yeah.
Amateur.
He did actually quite well because of course before he came back and raced the local stuff, his real sort of 4-wheel stuff began over in Japan with Super GT, and they're not easy cars to drive. They were pretty quick cars. And he did pretty well. He was not once again not a superstar, but you have a look at going back in the days of course John Surtees was the most famous, but you also Mike Halewood and Johnny Cicotto and. Locally, Graham Crosby, the New Zealand superbike rider, Greg Hansford, a whole bunch of 2-wheel racers have moved on to 4 wheels and done very, very well for themselves. So wouldn't surprise me
Barry
at all.
Sheen
that
had a quick crack at it, but took the piss out of himself and realised that he wasn't that good at it and gave up pretty much straight away. But Basil is his own biggest critic. So
that's it. Yeah. Stuart, change your battery.
I was going to say he was counting his screens about before. I think when someone said, back at the start when you had the timing screens and how many, I think it was 2 screens in front of him. I think Andrew S had his caption up on the bottom there. I saw he was going 1, 2, 3, 4. I think he lost count of how many screens he had, but he still needs to change his batteries.
That's it. So, as Paul's saying, would be good if Grand Prix and Le Mans could be run in a cinema one day. I had thought, and I had spoken to them about this, at some stage it went through my mind to run as a fundraiser for the show, to run a drive-in, a night at the drive-in, with Le Mans and you could do Grand Prix, but I was thinking Le Mans and say Ford versus Ferrari as a double at the Lunar Drive-In and invite
Yeah,
car
sounds
clubs
good.
along and use it as a have it as a sort of combined car show, film night fundraiser for the show. So
Well,
I
you
mean,
could
if
do it.
anybody's
What about 24 hours in a cinema, and you could block it all up into 4 or 6 hour blocks, and then everyone could have a piece of it as well too.
it's hard enough for it's hard enough for me sitting through. I had enough trouble sitting through the 2.5 hours of Doctor Strange the other week, let alone. And I still haven't got around to watching the Batman, and that was not going to be a thing. There was no way I can sit in a cinema for over 3 hours watching a film. So anyway, let's. But that's something that we wanted to that went through my mind to do. Let's talk about mentioned drag racing just before I forget about it. Came out this afternoon, totally out of the blue. ANDRA, the Australian National Drag Racing Association, the FIA approved and sort of Motorsport Australia officially sanctioning body for for drag racing in Australia, who have been in quite the battle with the 400 Thunder organisation and the IHRA, have now licensed the Australian Drag Racing Championships to Top Fuel Australia. And as a result, it means that the ANDRA National Drag Racing Championships, many of the rounds will now be run at various 400 Thunder events at places like Sydney and Willowbank and the New Bend track. The opening race at the New Bend track is happening in, I think it's January or February next year, and they've got a lot of good people behind that. I know there were people within ANDRA and also Motorsport Australia who were very, very keen for Sam Shaheen to make sure that the sanctioning of that strip was going to be placed with ANDRA. It looks like they're just going to be a bit like with the circuit itself. They're just going to sort of it doesn't matter whoever hires the track basically brings the sanctioning body with them, and they don't really care one way or the other as long as there's a sanctioning body there and the insurance is all in place. They're open for business and they're open to anybody, and they've got some interest. And the interesting that the managing director of the drag racing scene over there is Steve Betts, who was one of the people behind the establishment of 400 Thunder from his days at Willowbank, and is of course going back to the golden days of drag racing at Calder Park. Steve was heavily involved, and he was the man behind all of those days when you had the Australian nationals there running with 50,000 crowds over 3 days, and so that's going to be big. It's going to be a huge thing for local drag racing, and what it means now is that not only will you go see the Top Fuel Championships, but also the Australian Door Slammer Championship, probably Pro Stock, most of the big categories, and the sportsman categories will be there. So it's going to be a big thing for drag racing.
Bikes are back in as well.
Top Fuel bikes and all the rest of it, they'll all be there, so you'll get most of your major Group 1 categories will all be running together in a combined national series, and that can only be good for the sport of drag racing. So
some common sense might have prevailed for a change by the looks of it.
Yeah, this is as Jeffrey will say. What do you reckon? Bring the Top Fuel bikes from US and Europe to Australia. Yeah.
Let's just work this one over every week. Let's just give it some air. Absolutely, give it some oxygen. Sounds good.
We did it once before, as I said. I think it was Larry McBride was out here. We had out at Calder Park, and it's still on YouTube somewhere. If you have a look around for drag bike meeting Calder Park, it was they had some of the top Americans came out. We had some people from New Zealand plus all the locals running in a dedicated 2-wheel drag race meeting out at Calder many years ago, because we had them on the program.
I'll raise you. Even though we haven't got one here, it's still in the process of a 10-year rebuild. It's taken its time because it's down. Last I knew, it's still down in Tasmania, but they'd sourced the Rolls-Royce engine for it and the cradle and getting all that organised on the recar scene. But I won't go into old waltzing Matilda. But bring a couple of the trucks over as well, though, too. The high-powered jet trucks. So I'm sure there's a couple of them hanging around there. laying about the back of a factory somewhere. So bring a couple of bikes, bring a couple of trucks. You would be amazed how many people would become flocking from all walks of life just to see the spectacle of the day. And look, it's only going to be good for the community and society. And don't forget your earplugs.
Yeah, it'd be really good. But anyway, it's good news for drag. Slowly but surely, but the drag racing is being sort of, no pun intended, being dragged kicking and screaming to put aside their various egos and differences and come together and eventually bring the sport back together as one, so that it can live up to its potential. But I did notice on that Andra released a preliminary calendar for for the sportsman races for next year, and I know that I saw that they've still got Calder Park in February as the Australian Nationals. So whether that happens or not, we've got no idea, because the last time
an asterisk next to it at the moment.
Well, I think the thing is, it seems to have disappeared once again off the. So I'm not sure what's going on, and I don't think anybody, including Peter, who runs the drag racing there, knows what's, because I think it's basically a day-to-day proposition with Rodney as to what actually happens there. But apparently we are close to having the thing ready to run again. But we've been hearing that, as Stuart would know, we've been hearing that for quite some time.
Three years?
Three. Yeah, three.
Yeah.
Would be three. But anyway, once again, also more drag racing news. Winter Nationals. Speaking of big meetings, the Winter Nationals is the biggest. They claim it's the biggest drag racing event outside of the United States, and the Winter Nationals is this weekend, and it will be seen on Foxtel and KO live. So if you've got Foxtel and KO, you've got Winter Nationals Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. No Top Fuel dragsters, but there's a couple putting exhibition runs, are a couple of Top Fuel funny cars. So there you go. Russell Clark saying the Bandag Bullet gathering dust somewhere. Somebody did put it.
That's hilarious.
That it is around. It is still around. Somebody posted a photo of it quite recently on Facebook. And they said it looked like there wasn't that much, and I think they were talking about restoring it and trying to get it up and running again and racing it. That was the big twin turbo diesel machine that used to do the wild burnouts and all that thing, and what used to run 9-second quarters or some ridiculous time for a huge.
Now a Tesla will go down there at 5.5 seconds if you want to.
Well, I was going to say a Tesla doesn't weigh the same as the truck, but it probably does.
yeah, with the batteries. Anyway, but look at any sort of entertainment. Get some of all this nostalgia out. There's always a great story amongst all these old relics that they could get out there and just go for a run down there and bring a smile to people's faces.
It's good to see there's a few of the old drag cars starting to be rebuilt, because it always got to me that we know that there's a fantastic historic scene going on in Australia in circuit racing, and incidentally this weekend as well up in Sydney Motorsport Park have got a big historic meeting as well taking place over the weekend. But drag racing sort of there was lots of old drag cars that were sort of put out to pasture, and we never sort of saw them again, but now I see on Facebook there's a few people who are getting out there and they're rebuilding some of these famous cars, so it would be great to see them out and about
we've done
racing
a
again.
A few segments on this and been a part of it down there at Phillip Island at least. Perkins Engineering's had a bit of a revival with some of their previous PE numbered cars in the last few years, and it's been good. And a PE 36 has come up for, which has been up for sale for a few times over the years. And as I saw the post today, it's under Race Cars on a Facebook page if you want to see the group, you want to belong to it. But it's exclusive group, so they're not going to just approve everybody onto it. The Perkins Engineering's number 36, which was the Russell Ingall car, one of the great liveries, one of the Castrol Commodore style ones. It has just gone up for a cool $600,000. So it was previously sold for just under 500, just above 500, but its new price tag is at just a smidgen under 600 grand. It's looking pretty pristine. It'd be you can choose, put it in a museum, take it out for a few track days, or race it again. So and that it's going to stand up to the test, being being a Larry one.
Yep, and speaking of Le Mans, which we were talking about a bit before, we'll talk a bit more about, our mate Christian Smith is joining us. G'day Christian. He's you can have a look at Christian's appearance on In Pit Lane from about a year or two when he talks about flagging and marshalling at Le Mans, which he's done quite a few times now, and posted a thing up today, the pie arc sticker that he put up in Pit Lane at Le Mans is still there. Somebody took a photo of it and sent it to him today. So the pie arc sticker in Pit Lane at Le Mans is still there after the last time that he was here. He was there. So. Yeah, so I imagine Christian's feeling a bit like I'm feeling at the moment. We're as much as we are happy to be home. I mean, it would be very, very nice to be back at Le Mans.
I caught up with Christian at the Bathurst 12 Hour a couple of weeks ago, and I hope you're getting that R&R that you were desperately needing at the time. We both were overworked and underpaid and trying to get some respite up there in Bathurst, and at that stage he was off on the Monday morning over to Sydney to do some more work, and I was heading back south to come back to Melbourne to get back to work the following day too. And he said he was going to get back to Melbourne the next couple of weeks and do absolutely nothing. So I hope, Christian, you're getting all your on 24 hours, much as you possibly can, and you get to go to your little continental bakery and buy your baguette that you were looking forward to. You were telling me while we were up there for Le Mans, and all the little trimmings that you were talking about, because he's a very hard worker and he's a great bloke, Christian. And if you ever see Christian and myself at the track like we are sometimes, like at the 12 Hour and that, and Brett and myself, don't be afraid to come up and say hi. He's got a lot of time for everybody, Christian has.
Yeah, he's got quite the collection of famous autographs on those orange overalls there from Le Mans. He's got lots of Le Mans winners and people there, lots of his helmet. Yeah, so he's got lots of experience at Le Mans and the Nürburgring 24 Hours, and so that's the sort of thing that you can do if you're a flag. Of course, mate Roger the Hat, Roger Churnside. We caught up with Roger when we went the first time. And I realised today it was 2003 was the first time. That was when we went to Le Mans, and I found the original, not the original tape, but I did find the DVD copy of that trip to Le Mans and also to Montleray, the banked oval there. And I don't think that was up on YouTube. So at some stage in the next couple of days, I will try and put both of those programs up on the YouTube channel as well. A bit emotional, I mean, there, because there's lots of stuff with Melissa and all the rest of it. So lots of and thank you to Alistair Jack Ferray as well for who's over at Le Mans, sent me some lovely thoughts, and was pointing out that come the race, he and his mates over there will be spending some time and raising a glass and paying tribute to Melissa over there, as they've done every year since her passing. So thanks, guys, really appreciate it, and no, she would too. So and yes, one day we will. One day I'll get over there myself, hopefully, and we can have that drink again together again. So
you make it a 20-year anniversary.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, I don't know about... See, next year's the 100th anniversary, and every man and his dog is going to be there. It's going to be absolute chaos to get tickets. But the following year, it's I like the fact that it'll be the 24 in 24, and it'll also be a year where I think it should be the year they have the Le Mans Classic as well, and that was the one we've never been to. Every time, for the first time we went there, everyone said, "Oh, you must come back for the Classic. You must come back for the Classic," and never been to we've never been. So yeah, really would. I don't know where the hell all this money's coming from. I mean, I can't afford to go in and shop at Dandenong at the moment, let alone bloody go to Le Mans. But
no one can afford to go down and fuel up get to the fuel station, fuel up their car, because if you actually make it to it at the moment, it's up over $2.20 a litre in most places. So
yeah, I mean, that would be the ultimate luxury, wouldn't it? Going up and filling up your tank with petrol and then driving down to the supermarket and picking up a couple of lettuce.
Hey, Brett, how about we go over in a couple of years to Le Mans?
I was going to say,
that?
Brett, why don't we go over it to Le Mans in a couple of years' time?
Yeah, well, that was there. I mean, sort of, it would be great to get back there. As I said, it was, like it would be very hard, but having sort of, I think I almost owe it to Melissa to go back and have that, and go back that one, at least that one last time before I shuffle off this mortal coil. I'd like to go back and have a look at it, but I'd certainly like to go back and if I did go back there, I'd somehow want to try and do the classic as well, because I think it's just it'd be just such an amazing meeting.
Date-wise, which one lines up closest to a event at Goodwood?
Well, that was how we ended up at the first year, because if you remember when we went in 2003, that's why we went, because Melissa rang me and said, look, there's going to be the last ever meeting at Montleray. The following week will be the Le Mans 24 hours. Oh, no, sorry. Well, there's Le Mans 24 hours. The following week is the Grand Prix de l'Âge d'Or at Montleray, on the banked oval at Montleray. And then the week after that is the Goodwood Festival of Speed. So there were 3 amazing meetings in as many weeks. And she said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime. We'll never get the chance to see anything at Montleray again. I mean, because it was supposedly the last ever meeting there. They have run some stuff since then, but nothing big. But this was the last ever big meeting at Montleray on the banked oval. There was Le Mans, of course, and then the Goodwood Festival. So, yeah, we went over for the 3 weeks, and it was an amazing experience. That was in 2003. So, but the problem was if we'd have waited another 2 weeks, the Classic was on, and it was like we just couldn't afford. We couldn't afford 3 weeks over there. There was no way we could afford 5 weeks. We were looking at ways. We were looking at all sorts of ways we'd get to stay there, but it just didn't. No, it was just never going to work out. I'm still paying for that bloody trip. So, not that I regret it.
But saying before, Brett, is about going down the service station at the moment and get a lettuce. You've probably got more chance if you go down Thompson's Road. There's a few lettuce farms. I bet you there's a few people jumping fences at the moment on their way home from work in the dark, slicing their own lettuce and throwing on the passenger seat. And number 2 is it's that desperate that KFC have now actually said that they're replacing their lettuces with cabbages because they can't source any lettuce at the moment.
I thought KFC tasted like cabbage.
When it's wilted.
Yeah, you could make all sorts of jokes about what they replace their chicken with, but I mean, we won't go there. But cabbage is not lettuce, but it's amazing, and it's not just lettuces as well. I mean, because you've had the week off, Dot, so you haven't had a look. But at the moment at your place of work, I was there about 2 hours ago, and there are no lettuces. There are no all the bags of spinach and rocket and salad mixes. None. All of that is got. Went across the road to the greengrocers, which is usually very cheap. Salad mix, normally $7.99 a kilo, sometimes up to $8.99 a kilo. $35 a kilo for salad mix, just rocket lettuce. 35, and there was and Brussels sprouts are $38.
Now here's the funny bit.
Can anyone say profiteering?
This is actually motor racing related because you've got Tony Quinn who owns VIP Pet Foods. I was watching a segment on the ABC today because I've had enough time to watch the Idiot Box. All the stuff that comes away from food products that's waste that goes into all those 44-gallon drums that are 44 and then get loaded onto the trucks. Up in Queensland, there's only one place that processes.
Yep, he's gone again.
Gone.
He's gone. This time he's well and truly. Yep.
Yeah, 150,000 a week.
There he goes. He's back.
But it's costing him $900,000 a week to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we might leave that there because you're dropping out completely. There, Andrew's saying, could Formula One move their race to Le Mans? That's been suggested quite a few times. Unfortunately, the Bugatti circuit at Le Mans, where they have the bike Grand Prix, is nowhere near up to FIA level one standards, and it would cost an absolute fortune. They couldn't. They'd never get permission to run on the full circuit in Formula One. That would be, it's dangerous enough with the cars they're running there now. That's one of the reasons they've slowed them down, because the ACO said, look, the cars in their previous iteration, the Toyotas, the 918 Porsche, the Audi R10, those cars were just getting too fast for the track, and they were getting very worried that they were going to have, yet another really, really big crash there. So they knocked that on the head. So, unfortunately, what you say is right. Paul Ricard didn't go to Paul Ricard, went past Paul Ricard, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Very, very hard to get in and out of the place. There's no public transport. It's a soulless sort of place that it does what it does okay, but it's not exactly. And apparently they went to a lot of effort to try and give it a bit of atmosphere and make it a lot more spectator friendly, but it hasn't worked, and it looks like this coming French Grand Prix I think is the last in the contract. And Esteban Ocon has already come out and said that. He's very fearful that it's probably going to be the last French Grand Prix, which was, as he said, would be a huge shame considering that they had the very first Grand Prix.
And
who had the second Grand Prix noted in the world?
Dijon, didn't they?
Australia.
Yes.
The second oldest.
Yeah, the Australian Grand Prix. Although it depends, because you get arguments as to about what is actually recognised as a Grand Prix around the world and what is. But yeah, technically the Australian Grand Prix at Phillip Island, which is where they had the first one, was the first one, but not at the track that is there now. But you can drive around, and it's basically a big square that goes right around that. When you go down to Ventor and all that, you see the signs up there saying where the various corners were, and you can drive around that original Grand Prix circuit at the time, so that's good. Speaking of circuits, as you can see along the bottom, Sebastian Vettel has said he doesn't think much of the idea of racing in Las Vegas. Doesn't like that at all. He said, "I'd rather race at Bathurst. I want to race Formula One at Bathurst." But he's also said that he realises that's probably not going to happen. But he has said that when he gives up Formula One, one of the bucket list things is to actually race at Bathurst at Mount Panorama. So. Yeah, Sebastian Vettel.
It's a wonder it hasn't been censored, because the Formula One drivers at the moment are getting in trouble for being outspoken again.
Well, I don't think Vettel cares anymore at the moment. I think he's in one of those things where it's like, I can say and do what I want. He's on the way out. Yeah. Yeah, I think at the end of this year, I think there's. It's going to be interesting to see how many, because it's looking increasingly like Alonso is saying he's not going anywhere. Fernando is saying I'm going to be. He said the other day he's going. Well, he said he's going to be here for another 4 years or something. But I think Alpine might have something to say about that, because they do not want to lose Oscar Piastri.
Yeah. What I've got an idea. Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo can sit and watch the Grand Prix from a bar somewhere in Europe.
Well, probably in America, more like it. I mean, you can imagine sort of, that it'd be a great television. It'd be like a new version of The Odd Couple. Daniel and Seb sharing a flat together in Florida or something. It's got sitcom magic written all over it. With
around the room.
You don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to think about who would be which character, do you?
With Flavio Briatore as their wacky doorman or their wacky landlord or something.
And guest appearance Mark Webber. Yeah.
Mark Webber is a visiting tennis professional or something. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Writes itself.
I'd watch it.
We all would. It'd be great English comedy again, wouldn't it?
It'll be a classic one, but so hopefully we'll see. It would make sense for if Seb wants to run at Bathurst, it would certainly make sense for the 12 hour to be One is. Speaking of racing at, well, I remember speaking of racing at Bathurst, could be interesting coming up at the Bathurst International later in the year. The Trans Am, the Australian Trans Am series, the people behind that are currently over in the United States at the American Trans Am series, trying to whip up interest with the TA2 guys over there to come on over to Bathurst for a bit of an end of year party at Mount Panorama. So that would be fantastic. That would be good.
That could work.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, this is the thing about TA2. It's like, as I said before, it's running. It's obviously started in America, but it is now running all over the world, and it's very big in Denmark. You could say you could get cars from certainly get cars from Europe running to virtually the same specifications. They're running in Asia, in Thailand, very big series in Asia, the Thai Super Series. Although the problem is their series runs basically parallel to our series as well in terms of dates, so that they might not be as free to come across. But you could certainly. It'd be a great. It could be like a great event in its own right if you could get sort of half a dozen or 8 cars or so coming across from America. Some of the top TA2 guys from the States coming across and racing at Mount Panorama with the locals. That'd be a lot of fun.
The only one drawback, I hope it doesn't work out like the Toyota 86. Half a lap, hey, red flag, sorry. Clean up the track.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing with anything. Yeah, that's the thing. If they race with supercars, you're always going to get that. I mean, anything that goes out is going to get red flagged, and it's probably not going to be restarted again, because that seems to be the go if you go up there. But certainly for the Bathurst International, they'd have a lot more flexibility, you think, and it'd be really good. So I don't know whether that's going to happen, but they are over there at the moment talking to American drivers and putting together a bit of a spiel, a bit of a presentation, and saying, hey, come across. Mad Cow Mark saying Dan Ricciardo will be pushing Zach for a NASCAR start.
That won't happen. That won't happen. Simple reason, because Daniel always does his shoey with champagne, and champagne is just it's not the right drink for an American audience, so you'll never get the drive.
I don't think Daniel will care what he's drinking out of a shoe if he wins. I think he'd be more than happy with a Miller Lite or a Bud or whatever and going the whole Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That stuff?
I know. But hey, have you tasted champagne out of a boot?
It's all about the alcohol. Which race has got the milk in it? Will you drink the milk as well?
It's Indy.
Indy. Yeah, it's milk out of a
shoe. Pete, you were going to say?
Yeah, milk out of a shoe.
On a serious note, I think he's still believing that he could see out the contract at McLaren
next year.
Yeah, well, they're saying that apparently the out clause is more at his end. Like if he gets if he gets quote a better offer, he can break the contract. But apparently they sort of can't. Apparently they can't get out of it. So I think he's hanging around.
Official Aussie rules umpire, and I reckon he'll get a push in the back. I'm calling that one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, but I mean they've got to replace him with someone, and the point is, they're saying, well, Gasly's a possibility. Helmut Marko's come out today and said that basically as far as he's concerned, there'll be no change at AlphaTauri. Sonoda will be hanging around, and as far as they're concerned, so will Gasly.
Joe's just arrived, so he'll stay too.
So you wouldn't think that there'll be any changes there, but Alonso will probably move aside or be sort of forced to move aside for Oscar, and then you would think that perhaps Vettel might be on his way out as well as Aston Martin, and that's even if Aston Martin hang around, because there's growing rumours that Audi will do a deal with Stroll, with Lance Stroll's old man, and buy that team so they can run a works Audi Formula One team.
Lot to play out in the off season when we get there.
Yeah.
Well, that would put VW Group into Formula One, wouldn't it?
they'd probably like.
Well, they've already said they're coming. I mean, Porsche. It looks like Porsche are going to do an engine deal with Red Bull, and Audi have said that they want to run their own engine, but they also want to run a branded team. Porsche are happy to be an engine supplier with an existing team, but Audi are saying they want to come in as a team, and they're not going to be able to start a team, as Andretti is finding out. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, Andretti's ready to go. And once again, Mario Andretti has come out today to Toto Wolff and basically said, because Toto said, "Oh, we're not sure about Andretti. We're not sure about. We don't really. We're not prepared to say yay or nay at the moment." And Mario's saying, you should all pull your head in. You keep saying you want Formula One to take off in America. Here's the most famous family name in all of American motorsport, just begging to, knocking on the door and saying, "Please let us in. We've got the money. We've got the engine deal. We've got all the stuff we need to put this together as the all-American Formula One team." And now you're turning around and saying, "No, we don't want you."
Yeah, that could be a case of the Europeans being afraid of having their ass kicked by the Americans.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. It certainly never happened before. The Americans.
Yeah, but if anyone was going to do it, it's Andretti.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd personally doubt it, but
Speaking of throwing money at things as well too, while my reception's working, don't forget, I don't think Roger's not going to get his Le Mans dream this year by the looks of things either.
No, but he's only running this year with the LMP2 car as preparation for the Porsche thing next year. So it's really, So he was. Well, he was never. The purpose was, obviously he's in LMP2, so it's not. The purpose isn't to win. Like as he said the other day, he said, "Look, if we're in a position to win, yes, of course we're gonna race for a win every time, but that's not why we're going. The reason they're going is to train the team, to train the drivers, and to learn the stuff so they can come back next year with the Porsche." And run that car next year in hypercar LMD D8. So you'll have next year we'll have.
I'm just saying a lot's got to go right next year as well too.
Well, he'll have Porsche behind, and he's got the runs on the board, especially with Porsche. So so you'll have Toyota. Toyota are even talking about it. Toyota are obviously really concerned because Toyota are already talking about having to build a new car. So next year, and there's also talk about possibly 3 Toyotas running next year. So you could have 3 Toyotas, 2 Glickenhaus, 2 Porsches, 2 Peugeots. So there's those cars as well. Then for the next year, you're going to get Alpine will come in the next year, and so will BMW have not committed to Le Mans at this stage. Lamborghini they've officially announced that they will be. They'll be on board and they'll run both IMSA and the World Endurance Championship, including Le Mans. So, and then you have the potential of Acura, Honda, and BMW as well. So there's there's 9 teams. Plus Cadillac. I forgot about Cadillac, who will be should be unveiling their car, I think, tomorrow, French time, because. Friday is a really big day at Le Mans. It's actually my favourite day, even though there's nothing happening on the track, because that's the day they have all of the big announcements, all of the big press conferences. The ACO have a big conference in the morning, and it's absolutely huge. It's like being in the United Nations. You've got the translation earplugs in, and there's journalists from all over the world. I think there was about 300 on the couple that I went to. And they go through the plans, the ACO's plans for Le Mans for the future. So that's the first one. And then all of the companies, all of the manufacturers will have, over the course of the day, will have their various announcements and unveilings, including Cadillac. So we'll see what the new Cadillac looks like. We've already seen what the new BMW looks like. We've had teasers for the camouflage teasers of the new Acura. We're going to see the first in the flesh version of the which one is it? The Porsche. The Porsche is going to apparently run up the hill at Goodwood in a couple of weeks' time.
How would you go translating the Americans? Like, y'all want to say something? Yeah, well, get down on your hair and we'll got something to show you. It's like, how do you put that into word translations? Seriously,
I've watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and they put a Babel, was it
Babelfish.
Yes, in your
Babelfish.
yeah. That's how they do it for sure.
But Doc, that's just as bad as listening to the current Top Gear hosts who don't speak English, even though they're from England.
With you on that one. With you. Yep. There you go.
Yeah, I think as Box is saying, it would be good if sometimes Formula One could run 3 cars. It would be, they can't afford to run 2 at the moment, but yes, that would solve a lot of their problems. I mean, if they had, and it'd been raised a number of times, going back even to the 70s. I know Ken Tyrrell used to say this. He said there should be, provision to run 3 cars, but one of the deal would be the third car would have to be a quote development team driver. Thing like a driver under 23 or under 25, whatever it would be, that they could say.
Speaking of running an extra car, we haven't spoken about the Supercars much tonight.
Hang on a second, Pete. Hang on, Doc. Hang on a second, Pete.
Like they do at Bathurst with the wild car.
Oh, I was just about to say that.
He got in first.
Oh, well, no, I actually got in first, speaking first, but then he jumped on, so they've announced another
but Doc, we can barely hear you tonight. You need to turn your volume up. We can barely hear you.
Don't get him to do that, for God's sake.
Four cars. Another wild card release this week.
Yeah, that's good. That's good that they've got some wild cards coming in. But that would make sense if you had a Formula One. Speaking of which, we do have Formula One on the weekend at Baku. That's running, and I believe that it's a better time for us. The race is a better time for us, Pete.
That's why I'm probably not going to say it, but that's why I was annoyed that Russia was taken off the calendar, because it was always a good time. But Azerbaijan is a good time as well. So it's a better time for us, yeah. So
I think what is it, 9 o'clock on
9 o'clock on Friday, and then 10:30 to 12:30 on Sunday for the race.
Yeah. See, unfortunately, once again, the race will be on, basically, and it'll be finishing the same time as Le Mans. So. It's a bit of a nuisance there. The FIA, I don't know what they're going to do about it. It's very hard, and I know Australia's got this problem, but they really do need to make sure there are certain events, and Le Mans has to be principal among them, and to say, okay, on the weekend of Le Mans, there will be no Formula One, there will be no World Rally Championship, nothing else of any, no Moto GP. Well, they're running this week.
With India and Monaco. Because it's like you watch the Monaco.
Well, they're at least at different times. Yeah, that's it. They're at least at different times.
No, they weren't this year because it got delayed.
Yeah, that's it. So it's sort of one dragged into the other. But usually they were a really good fit, because if you stayed up all night, our mate Jamie from the show, he used to he always took the weekend off, because the idea was, he would make a long weekend of it, of basically staying up watching Monaco, and then staying up and watching all night through until the end of, and then you could if you wanted, if you could, your own 24 hours, because then you can follow on with the NASCAR with the World 600 from Charlotte as well.
Yep.
So you can make a real, so you can make a bit of thing. Paul saying, Motel has Foxtel, so he gets to watch the Formula One when he's up there. Yeah, I've done that myself. I actually watched Monaco and Indy from a motel up at. It was actually up further. It was up right on the border. I couldn't get anything in Wangaratta or Benalla, and I ended up right on the border at Mulwala, and they had. Yarrawonga Mulwala, and I was there. I think I was just across the New South Wales side, and they had Foxtel on in the motel there, so that was a big weekend. I ended up staying.
Ring up for a booking and say, "How's your Foxtel reception? What do you have?"
I've done that in the past. I've down at Phillip Island. I've done this. And do you have Foxtel in the rooms? And they said no, we don't. The other thing that you can do,
Have a good day.
if you've
See you
got
later.
yeah, well, the other thing you can do is you can take down the Apple TV or the Chromecast and the Netgear Nighthawk, which Stuart was showing us before we started, which he's got there. Yeah, let's just pop. I did that up in I did that at Benalla one night. They didn't have there, so I took my modem and the Apple TV and plugged it into the hotel TV and watched on KO.
I should just point out that the company I work for in the daytimes sells aerials for these things. So if you're in areas that don't get good reception, you can get better reception.
Yes,
I'm not branding the company. I won't wear the shirt, but it is dark blue. But okay.
I'm just going to say it starts.
And they're everywhere. Starts with a J.
Yeah.
And has something to do with cars or something, I believe.
Oh, vehicles, yeah, that sort of stuff. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I know.
Lots of electronics.
Speaking of vehicles, and I'm going to sidetrack everyone for a second.
Right.
It is a vehicle
I'm
show.
just going to clear my ears out.
Yeah, so a few of you beware, I lost my father a few weeks back or months back. 2 weeks after Dad passed, a car turned up that he'd paid for as a surprise for my sister.
Oh, wow.
So if anyone out there watching knows anything about a Standard 8, and I believe Standard bought Triumph, so the engine found its way to Spitfires and the like.
We used to have one.
What have you? I would like to know.
We used to have one
sitting in the backyard
with all the other cars that are there as well as Standard.
Under a cover.
Yeah, we used to have a Standard 8. Well, Dad had one when I was a kid. We had a Standard 8. As far as I know, it never ran. I never remembered, and it was one of those, I'm going to fix it up, and it never got fixed, and eventually it got taken away as well. And this was
it's been stored in a barn for 15 years and was running when parked. So it's a case of if the brakes work and the engines work, it's basically put it on classic plates. It's in that sort of quality condition. So
wow, great.
Dad was apparently going to surprise my sister with a run down to Gippsland and pick it up, and never got a chance to. So
Just
2
a
weeks
heads
after he
up on
passed
that,
away,
Stuart,
it turns up.
Might help you out on just the brakes and the engine running. You need a little bit more. So I put a car on club plates 2 weeks ago as well too. The roadworthy certificate. Another one I put on. Yes, the white one this time I've put on. I've gone through the process of an upgrade on roadworthiness again. So now they're actually doing electronic rather than the paperwork. So just make sure you do your homework before. So they're not even using pads anymore. It's all electronic now that's going to be uploaded into it. So that includes all the pictures.
Cool.
So just make sure.
Well, if anyone knows how to get a Standard 8 running, I want to know.
Okay. On that note as well, then too, any advice for anybody is then I did a pre-roadworthy check, which they'll go over it and assess everything, so that way they know what the fix, which have been around forever. It's very helpful now if you do that before you get the roadworthy.
I'm sure there's a Standard 8 and a car club or something there, because they were around. As I said, Dad certainly had one, and that was like that was when I was a kid. So we're talking sort of mid-60s, mid to late 60s.
This is 50s.
Yeah, well, the car would have been, because it was an old car when we had it. So
they were apparently built for about 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
I certainly remember it. Yeah.
So from what I've been able to find out so far, Standard were the parent company for Triumph. So the history of this engine design all the way through to the V8 in the Stag.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I think that.
So, yeah, he's done a few.
Yeah, well, Mike may know something about them, and if any of our friends in the historic racing scene and the historic vehicle scene who know anything about Standard 8s, I'll put a few feelers out, and I'm sure there's a few people out there who'll know all about them, and will be able to give you give you an idea. So yeah, I'll get in touch and I'll let you know about that. Okay, everybody. Look, we've been having a chat. This is the thing about we're not doing the show. We haven't caught up for a while, so I've been in isolation for a week just because it's the weather's been so bloody miserable out. So I didn't have to have. Yeah, I mean you have to. I mean I didn't have to. In fact, I was going to go into. The plan was to go into RMI TV tomorrow night to do some training in the studio, and that's been cancelled. So, yeah, there you go. So, Paul's put up a link there, Stuart, so it's on Wikipedia. If you want some more details.
Yeah, that was sort of the basic thing that I found, but I'm looking for a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I'm sure there's someone out there who'll I'll put out a few feelers with people in the VHR and that sort of thing.
If you scroll down that Wikipedia page, well, actually, this one, the one that's on there is the one where the boot opens. Down the bottom, marked as Vanguard Cadet is roughly the design, but no, the one sitting in the backyard is not on that page.
Mm. Okay, well, yeah, perhaps pop up a photo of it or something from and put it up on Facebook or something, and we can put it on. I can share it out on the In Pit Lane page and say, hey, anybody who knows anything about this or anybody who does repairs or knows where you can get bits for them or whatever, I'd like to get this one up and running again, because I imagine it was that would have to be incredibly emotional when this thing turns up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, it would have been. So I can imagine incredibly there. So, I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, to get that sort of surprise, 2 weeks after he passes away. And as I said, I think to people, I mean, when I went to the funeral, I mean, there was no doubting where the funeral was, because you just had to listen to the sound of engines sort of cruising up the back street of Melton there. Sort of, it was like going to a hot rod show. There were so many cool cars sort of cruising up and down the street looking for places to park to turn up to Alan's funeral. So it was it was a big day.
Oh yeah.
So. Okay, everybody. Well, look, have a good weekend. As we said, Le Mans. If you haven't gone on to stand yet, there is, as I said, a 7-day trial. It's 7 days. You've got to sign up for the main stand first, and that's a 1 month trial. But yeah, I'd cancel after 7 days so you don't have to pay anything, and that's what I'm doing. So I've got 7 days, and tomorrow, as a bonus, you get whatever is on stand as well. I'm going to watch finally catch up with Joker tomorrow, because that's on stand. So I'll catch up with that. And apart from that, my weekend is going to be I've got the confit duck is ready and cooked, ready to go for the rillettes, and the Cap de Grand Marnier is going to be made, and yes, we'll be sitting there and enjoying Le Mans. So have a great weekend. Hope it's a great race. Hope it's a safe race. Good luck to all the Aussies involved there. James Allen, bad luck for James. One of his co-drivers put the car in very heavily, did a lot of damage, rode off the tub, and they're in a real race against time to get back in the race now. So hopefully, fingers crossed that he's back in the race and he gets his start. In the LMP2 category for tomorrow's race when it kicks off tomorrow night, also on Saturday night, and also to Matt Campbell and Ryan Briscoe and all the Australians who were there, and also to our mate Shane Van Gisbergen as well. Hope it goes well for Giz as well. Okay, everybody, we'll see you hopefully next week, and we'll have all the wrap up from there and all the news stories, and yeah. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. See you later, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
See ya. Good night.